second episode of our vodcast series, Data Unlocked, our guide to data mastery. Welcome back. It's good to be back again. Now we are officially starting this series after our first introduction. So now that we've introduced the main objectives of this series, we are diving into the foundations of data analysis. That's an essential skill for educators aiming to create data-driven and impactful learning environments. So today, I think we can start by asking ourselves this question, like, why is it so important to learn how to manage data? Why? Why? Can't we just maybe rely on information out there, or just, passively accept the data sets that are coming from the external world? The short answer is no, but we know we have a full series on this, so we can't just give the answer right away. Am I correct? So, if you're listening to this podcast or watching it, you're a digital citizen. And as a digital citizen, we live in a world where our behavior, our personal information are transformed into metadata, and they are the key in shaping our experiences and how services are designed for us. So, we know that data is everywhere, right? And in education, understanding and analyzing it can transform how we teach, how we evaluate experiences, and how we support our students. So, whether it's like identifying trends or solving problems or planning our lessons, data analysis empowers us as educators to have like informed decisions that truly matter. And let me just add that as vet educators, so teaching in vocational education training programs, we are preparing our students for future professions with the skill set that are required to manage the vast amount of information that they will encounter once they start working. We are teaching them how to process that kind of information and how to develop the services for their organization, and those are all skills that are fundamental in mastering data analysis. Today, we'll absolutely be focusing on this. We'll explore how educators can strengthen their knowledge and their teaching practices on the one hand by incorporating data into their lesson plans and creating like data driven, insightful modules. And we'll also explore how to make these activities engaging and exciting for our students, because we know that it's not just about becoming passionate ourselves, but it's also about being capable of transmitting this while making it engaging for our students. I won't be covering this important topic alone, obviously, as we'll do in all the following episodes as well. I'm thrilled to have Giulia Augusto with me today. She's an expert working with Italian public institutions with an extensive CV that will help us, let's say, discover all the aspects that we need to know about data literacy in our episode. So, Giulia will share her experience working with large national data sets on economic issues, and she will support us in shaping a VET approach to data literacy. So, together, what I would like to do is explore practical ways to adapt data analysis techniques to classroom settings and help students develop the critical thinking skills that they'll need in the workforce. So, let's get started. Giulia, thank you for being here today. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, Ada, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I think we couldn't do this podcast without having you as one of our guests.
Thank you.
So let's start with the first question. I would like to ask you, how do you approach analyzing vast national data sets, and what challenges do you face in ensuring accuracy and relevance?
So, what is very important for us when we analyze vast national data sets is, first of all, to do a sort of a preliminary exploration of data, and also to approach them using a sort of data cleaning and pre-processing. So, normalizing them and also checking the accuracy of these data, meaning that we have to check the context, the provenance, and so on. Also, we have to control and to check if there is a reliable source that we have that we have to use. And let's say at the end, very important is also how we produce a report of this data, so that the data that are presented can be understandable from the public. And in this case, we just use, let's say, a sort of data storytelling. So these are, let's say, the different steps that we use to approach data. And as for the challenges, we have to be very careful about the completeness of this data, but also about the representativeness of them. I mean, by using this term, that we have also to be aware of bias that we can meet in the data that we are approaching. Another issue is also that we have to relate our data to different regions because they can offer a different portrait of the situation that we are analyzing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Just one quick question. Like, how do you think the role or the relevance, maybe better, of data analysis evolved over the recent years? And linked to this question, why do you think it's important for educators, especially in VET programs, to understand the fundamentals of data analysis?
Well, yes, I would say that in recent times, we are facing a very interesting phenomena, which is the use of the artificial intelligence, also in the field of data analysis. I would say that the major trend in this case is that we move from descriptive data analysis to predictive data analysis, meaning that now with all these tools, the artificial intelligence and so on, so we also are able to use automated decision systems, so that also we can embed, let's say, machine learning language also while using data analysis tools. That's very important also because on the one side, you have to be very careful of the phenomenon, but you can control it. I mean, that you can use these tools with, let's say, always keeping in mind what I said before about the challenges. Maybe then the major trend could be also that there will be a democratization of data analysis, meaning that also, let's say, let's say, employer, not having not having an experience in the field, can use also data analysis tools, not in a professional way, but let's say very starting way of using them, so that they can start approaching the matter. And another trend that I see is that we can we can also have the real time data analysis or statistics, because we now see that we can also use artificial intelligence to have real time statistics. That's why it will be also very important for educators to get to know the field. Also, because the curricula of the students will need to have also this kind of competencies, because this kind of competencies are very relevant for industries now. These competencies will increase their employability.
Yeah, and speaking about employability, and I think that's, well, absolutely relevant, especially for vocational trainings. From your perspective, what industries or which professionals benefit the most from a strong foundation in data analysis, and how can vet programs align with these needs?
Well, as for I think that there are, I would say, a lot of industries benefit.
Absolutely.
Okay, first of all, I would say is the healthcare medical service. Very, very, very important, because data analysis will be sometimes, and also machine learning will be sometimes the crucial competence about patient care, and also about resources that can be used in the field of medical care, but also for instance, in retail. The data analysis will be very, very important, because, well, everything that has to do with marketing, everything that has to do with the inventory management, for example, but also the customer experience, for instance, will benefit from data analysis, but also knowing how sales are going on, and also, I would say, the logistics. To have a very clear idea of delivery routes, for example, but also, I would say, the field of advertising, obviously, so to know how is the customer, how customer are approaching a product or service. But I would say also in the field of energy, because we have to manage now a lot of data coming from the data driven energy management, for instance. But also, it's also very important in the fields of utilities, because data analysis will be very important in the case of the Internet of Things, for example, so the IoT, because so we can manage energy consumption at home, for instance. So all these fields, and obviously, well, in the agriculture also services, because we have, let's say, environmental monitoring. That is a major trend now, and also very important will be the data interpretation of the environmental resource management, for example.
Thank you, Julia. I think, well, listening to you, I was thinking, okay, there's a lot to data analysis and to the interpretation of data, but we all know that data numbers, they're not neutral, right?
No.
Like, because someone might say, okay, these are the numbers, so this is the meaning. We know that interpretation of data and the ability to interpret data is not neutral. Keeping this in mind, what do you think are maybe some misconceptions that students or educators might not be aware of? And also, at the same time, do you think that teaching data analysis can really empower students in becoming critical thinkers when it comes to seeing the numbers in front of them, seeing the numbers they have to interpret and give a meaning to? And can this make them like informed digital citizens?
Well, yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, the issue of neutrality of data is, let's say, the answer to your um, uh, to your to your question about misconception, because well, generally speaking, obviously, people think that once you have a number, the number is neutral, which is not, obviously. That's why this is exactly what I was talking about at the very beginning, when I was talking about the steps to consider while approaching data. Always keep in mind that data are connecting, or relevance of data is connecting to the sources. Are they reliable? Not every source is reliable. How are you interpreting data? Please always keep in mind that the observer can be influenced by bias, cognitive bias. So, people who are specialized in statistical analysis are trained to know which are the main bias, because again, we are not having to do with something which is neutral. And again, how was this data collected? You have to consider what assumptions are made while reading this data. So each time that you approach this kind of analysis, you have to keep in mind all these things that can be very positive or negative depending on how you use them. And this also is related to use data analysis in VET programs, because once you tell students that data is not neutral, that you have a lot of misconceptions, that you have to be very, very, very careful, then you build, let's say, confidence in them and in navigating data coming from the outside. And also you can build a confidence in, let's say, an evidence-based communication. For instance, data can enable them to build advocacy for instance, I would say climate change action, or also addressing social themes and so on.
Yeah, well, I agree with this 100%. And well, let's bring this conversation back to the classroom.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what do you think are some effective ways to introduce these concepts to students that may have zero to little prior experience on data analysis?
Well, as for my experience, I think that if students do not have any kind of idea about data analysis, what we can do, what teacher can do, is that they should try to involve students with, let's say, real life problems, so that they can really understand how data can be used. For example, you ask them a question. Look at the forecasts, for instance. So, how do meteorologists use past data, historical data, to predict weather, for example, for tomorrow? they start to use environmental data, historical data for something that they can live in their daily life. For instance, you can ask also students to create a Google Sheets, for instance, to create a data set in a Google Sheet or in a Microsoft Excel, and you tell them to put, I don't know, for instance, the age of each of the students in the classroom, and then they create a graph together with the average age of the class. You can also tell them to put, for instance, blank cells in a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, so that, for instance, what they have to do, first step is to clean the data, so that they start also to understand how the process works. Data analysis seems to be something very complicated, but at a very, let's say, basic stage, they just have to, let's say, analyze their performance, for instance.
Wow, Julia, you went through quite a number of possible activities that our teachers can try in their classroom. So I think there's no excuse after listening to this answer. I wanted to ask you first, like, if you thought that maybe using real economic data to make things more interesting was a good idea, but I think you've already covered this, because thinking about
Yes.
the weather forecast or thinking about even the classroom dynamics, these are like, I think, concrete elements and fields that the students can understand, and
Yeah.
that's something interesting they can try, and you can also try as teachers. Following up on this question, can you please make it as easy as possible? I would say just suggest a template lesson plan. I think there are a lot of activities that you've already mentioned here, and think of like one lesson plan from beginning to end, just a step by step.
Well, a very, very simple lesson plan. Again, let's say that the starting point, in my opinion, is that students have to be involved from the very, very start. So, what a teacher can basically do is, let's say, starting from the involvement of the students. So, for example, a lesson plan can be about a personal finance analysis project, for example, so
Okay.
that students are asked to track their or spending for a month. Okay, so this is what they are asked to do. Then the teacher, during this month, the teacher will teach how data are collecting using a spreadsheet. Okay, so while students collect their data, teacher will introduce how spreadsheets work and how are collecting in these spreadsheets. Then after this month, let's say, once students have collected their data, they can use data visualization tools, meaning that a teacher can ask them the trend of their expenses, for example, and have the graph prepared for this trend. So after having taught data collection, they teach also how to use graph to build graph using these data. And at the end, they should present their findings to their classroom mates using data visualization, meaning that they will use a graph, but also they are asked to use infographics. In this case, the teacher will, before they end with the presentation, the teacher will help students using Canva, for instance, and how to use infographics in Canva to present their data findings.
Wonderful. And I will tell you why I love this example you just made, because I think that our educational programs, they are always lacking a lot of
Yeah.
information when it comes to financial education. So you introduced the data analysis from a concrete and lifetime data set for our students, while also providing hints on how to understand the financial aspects of their personal life. And I think that's like great, because if you see it like day by day during a month, you're there, you're checking it, adding information, I think it will be difficult maybe to forget about how to manage your budget afterwards. Maybe you forget most of the lesson about data analysis, but not the one about financial education. So wonderful, Julia. I
Well, I
think it
agree
was
with
great.
you.
And also you pointed out the importance of data visualization to make everything more relatable. And I'm happy to say that we also have an episode on data visualization coming forward. So just stay with us for the next episodes. We have another expert on data visualization that will join us. And thank you also for mentioning Canva as an important tool that's out there. Canva is a free platform, mostly free. It has a premium version also, but you can use it for free. That will help you with all the graphic designing aspects of communication. And there's also Canva for education, so where school can enroll, so they can just register the school and have access to all the premium features for free. So write it down. This is the first interview. We are already giving you tips that will be very useful for you as teachers, but also as individuals if you're not a teacher listening to us. So thank you once again, Julia. And final question, maybe, because you are inspiring me with your answers. So I might come up with more questions after this. Let's just see. So for now, the final question is, obviously, apart from Canva, can you like suggest other free or low cost resources, or maybe data sets or online tutorials that are out there and that you would like to recommend to educators, teachers looking to build their own data skills and data analysis skills before they take it to the classroom?
First of all, I would suggest to learn how to use Google Sheets, which is very, very easy to use. I would say even easier than Microsoft Excel. It is very, very,
100%.
very, very helpful. So it has also built-in analysis tools. So you can start with a basic, let's say, knowledge of these Google Sheets. Then you can also use some education. I would suggest you some educational resources. You have some YouTube channels. One is called Data Professor. And then you will have some tips about how to use data analysis. There is also a platform which is called GitHub Education, where you can find some tools for educators. And well, I would say you can just start with these basic tools, so that can be used in the classroom.
Thank you, Julia. I think there's a lot that came out from this conversation, and you will agree with me from how to avoid, I would say, widespread misconceptions, and how to rely on personal data and informal, also formal data sets that are out there, how to use your own personal experience to track some information, to familiarize with data analysis. Because one of the risks that I see right now, because we were talking about artificial intelligence when we started, is that they are giving us like the chance to analyze huge data sets at once, and also eroding like the critical thinking behind it. So from the inputs you shared today, our teachers will be able to, combine the two, so get the best out of both worlds, I would say. And so teach their students how to relate to data, how to analyze, how to try to find what they're looking for without the idea that it's neutral, because it's no neutral operation. And yeah, there's a lot, but I think we'll stop here for today, because this is just the one of the first interviews we are doing in this series, and I would like to explore more and more. So thank you. And data analysis is not just a technical skill, that we saw that today, but it's an interesting tool that can empower both educators and students, because we know our audience are mostly teachers and educators in vocational trainings, at least for this podcast. But we know we cannot control how far it will go. We hope it will help more people understand data analysis. And yeah, by incorporating data driven approaches into our lesson planning, we can create engaging and practical and impactful learning experiences. So, I would say stay tuned for our next episodes, where we'll have the chance to explore more interesting aspects, and we'll learn how to master our data with our new guests. So, until next time, bye. And thank you again, Julia, for being
Thank
here with
you.
us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.